Hi, good evening, and welcome to Unsuited. We're on the second episode, and this is our second season. Our guests today are a very powerful mother daughter duo. And aside of a shared gene pool, the both of them also share a strong passion to resolve legal conflicts amicably and sprinkled with generous doses of compassion. Please welcome Laila Ollapally and Tara Ollapally, the two powerful women who run the Camp Mediation Center in Bangalore. Hello, ma'am. Hi, Tara.
Hi. Thank
Thank
you.
you for coming, ma'am.
Hi, Laila. Hi, Tara.
Hi, Vikas. Hi, Tanisha and the rest of the team.
Hello.
Great. So thank you again for joining us, especially as this season is all about relationships. So last week we were fortunate to have Shardul and Pallavi as a kind of powerhouse couple. And now we've got, mother-daughter in tandem with us. And really want to, like we were discussing before, this is very much about the personal journey. So beyond the kind of technical experts and brilliance that we know you have, it's very much about your journey as individuals and mother and daughter. So Laila, we're going to dive straight back into going back a few years where you studied the law when you're expecting Tara. So obviously with Tara, her connection with law goes back a long time. But at the time you were doing it, you were actually a banker. So what made you go from being, a banker to being like, okay, I want to, embark on a journey in law instead?
Because you're right, I started my professional career as a banker. And I'm very grateful to Tara because as a banker, I was really not excited with my profession. And it's a great profession, but somehow I didn't fit in so well. And when Tara came along, I was delighted to step aside, launch into a study of law, and become a mother. So for 10 years, I sidestepped and focused on the studying of law and of course, bringing up my 3 kids. So that's what I did for 10 years, and that's what I'm grateful to Tara for. Talking about my journey, is that what you want me to?
Yeah. So like, how do you go from, I mean, it's still a big thing, even being a banker, back 40 plus years ago, as a woman in India, and then switching altogether. It was another big step.
So, well, I must mention that my father was a judge. He was a first generation lawyer, an eminent jurist, judge of the Supreme Court of India. He was a barrister. So there was law there in the family, but really there was no pressure on me to be a lawyer. I just shared a very loving relationship with my father. And then I opted to study law. And when I look back, there were three aspects that really influenced me as I started my profession. First, my father died fairly early. I joined the profession within a few years. He passed away. For 1 year, he was ailing, and I took care of him. And during that 1 year, I read 5 landmark judgments with him. And that was my greatest learning experience. He really showed me how to read a judgment and bring it to life. So that was a great experience that I shared with my father. Then he would often tell me when he, as I discussed law with him, he would say, law is a very powerful skill. The legal skills are very powerful. Use it to have a positive impact. So this is something which remained in my mind. And once he really surprised me. And that happened when I just started my profession. My husband and me, we were young. And My husband ventured into business, first time business, into the business world, and his business got caught in litigation. So here we have 3 little children and much distress in the family. So I call up my father and explain what happened to him. And he said, "You have a very good case, but I'm telling you, please resolve. Get ahead with your life. Don't get caught here." So this was infuriating when so much injustice was done. A judge telling me, my father telling me, resolve and get ahead with your life. For 4 years, we continued the litigation. There was immense stress in the family. And that's when I kind of resolved that dispute. It was my first mediation without really knowing what mediation was. So I knew the pain of litigation at a very early stage in my life. And I believe today many judges and lawyers, when their near and dear ones get caught in litigation, this is their advice. So, well, I launched into the career, and I practiced in the High Court and the Supreme Court. But there's one thing that I always did. As I practiced my commercial litigation, I always had one public interest litigation which I was involved with. And reflecting back, I was successful with all my public interest litigations. And how it happened, I mean, this is in retrospection. I did my public interest cases like a collaborative dispute resolution. So whether it was the environmental law or disability rights or mental health law, whichever public interest litigation I did, it was with a focus on collaboration. It came intuitively to me. I didn't really study collaborative law, but this came intuitively to me. And when I look back at mental health law, in order to do that litigation, I became a member of the self-help group of persons with mental illness. I brought together the caregivers, the mental health authority, the psychiatrists, brought them all onto the table, understood where their pain points were, understood what was possible for them, used my legal skills then to go to court and get excellent orders from the court, which everybody was happy to implement. So this was something which worked. And through this process, in the field of mental health, I remember we rewrote the minimum standards for psychiatric hospitals. District hospitals, for the first time in Karnataka, had a psychiatric wing, which was never there. Dharwad Mental Hospital was a closed institution, which means patients were kept in the hospital, very often chained and abandoned by families. Through court order, we made it an open institution. Even in terms of the mental health law, we collaborated, the caregivers and the National Law School and myself, we worked on a legislation, and the first draft of the mental health law, which subsequently was passed in 2017, was prepared by us. And this is a very progressive legislation. And all this happened because of a collaborative approach, which I brought to the public interest field. Continuing the journey, I continued my practice. Around 2005-06, I remember beginning to feel a restlessness, and the delays in courts, the shackles of procedures. So I knew it was time to do something a little different. And that's when I get a call from the Chief Justice of Karnataka inviting me to be a coordinator of the Bangalore Mediation Center. Let me tell you, I didn't know what mediation was at that time. But one doesn't say no to the Chief Justice. So I said yes. And I'm very grateful to him because I was introduced to a world which was intuitively mine, but now I had the opportunities to learn about collaboration, make it a learned skill as well. And within 2 years, I had resolved more cases, more disputes than I did in my 20 years of my legal profession. So I was just, I knew that this is what we should bring into our system. I went to the US on a fellowship. That was in 2011. And I saw the immense power of this process, how this had potential to resolve disputes in so many areas of civil practice. So I came back and I was so excited. Different kinds of disputes, whether it's commercial law, whether it's intellectual property, whether it's employment disputes, I could resolve this using this process. So this was something which was really fascinating. And soon I gave up my legal practice and focused fully on this profession. I wanted to make it a full-time career. I knew this had to be taken to different parts of the community. I just believed that this would really change the mindsets of people. It would, it is so appropriate to the evolutionary concept of a good human being. Maybe this is what I want to pursue. And that's how I got into mediation. And that's where I am today, full-time, completely dedicated to mediation.
Yeah, it's an amazing story, actually, given, from, banking to to lawyer to litigation to then switching. And like you said, litigation and mediation is a very different, the different ends of the spectrum when it comes to, managing disputes and this collaborative approach. So I'm gonna head to you, Tara, because obviously you've grown up with, your mom and that, your mom, your grandfather, those kind of legal influences. And did that then become a natural kind of thing that you were going to pursue the law, or what got you into the kind of the profession?
Yeah, because I mean, as you heard, I grew up in this, and so and I never thought about it till you brought it up. I guess I was exposed to the law in utero. It wasn't something I had thought about in that respect. So yeah, I was exposed to the law very young, conversations between my mom and my granddad. And I knew quite early that I wanted to be a lawyer. I also, like most young people, wanted to disassociate myself with my mom as much as I could, especially in my teenage years. But as fate would have it, I ended up working with her. But social rights and rooting myself in human rights law is where I knew I wanted to invest my legal career. So through law school, setting up human rights clinics, being part of Amnesty International, internship with National Human Rights Commission. I was lucky to do my LLM at Columbia under some eminent professors, and I worked in the space of human rights law for many years. And then for personal reasons, I had to kind of switch out of human rights law. I moved back to India in 2011. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. What attracted me about the human rights field was the power of the law to change the status quo, the ability to move people who were in difficult, vulnerable situations to more empowered spaces. And the role that I, as an individual, could play in that journey was what was hugely attractive to me. When I moved back, I hadn't practiced in the courts, but for some reason that was not attractive to me. I didn't find that a pull. And I was a little confused, not knowing where I wanted to strike. I had 3 little kids at that point, and Mom had, come up with this idea that she wanted to expand her practice into private mediation. I'd seen the passion with which she had engaged in mediation. I saw that she was engaging with it from a different space. It wasn't just her intellect; it was her entire being that was in this space. So I kind of dabbled, and I said, "Sure, you know what? Let me support you in this. I'm anyway trying to figure out what I want to do. I have 3 little kids. I want flexibility." So it was just, that's what was my introduction to mediation, of kind of supporting her. But needless to say, within a very short period of time, I was pulled right in. The fact that I was able to do what drove me as a human rights lawyer, where as a human rights lawyer, I was trying to change the status quo. I was trying to change it to be what it should be, to working within the confines of what is, and finding meaningful, real solutions, using the power of the law to work within what is, to me was another way of being able to provide real solutions to people who were in difficult spaces. So mediation, of course, quickly caught on. It resonated with me at multiple levels. It helped me in my role as a mom. I deal with it in my relationships with my husband. Of course, I deal with it in my relationships with my mom. So mediation has not only been a professional tool, it's been as much of a personal tool, I must say. And to that extent,
do you practice what you're learning on them first? Like whenever you're going on courses, upskilling?
I try. I must say, every once in a while, when my mom and I get into a scrap, I look at her and I say, "So you call yourself a mediator?" and guess what? I hear the same.
And I'm sure your kids will put that to you as well when, once they figure out.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So that's how I was pulled into the space. Again, although I always, as a growing girl, said, I'm going to find my own, not going to be anywhere close to my mom. I guess fate had it differently. I'm right next to her on this one.
It's really interesting that you both have had your own journeys and then come together and are now clearly, at the helm of transforming how ADR, just alternate dispute resolution, is looked at in India, and making mediation so hugely mainstream. I actually want to ask the both of you if you can, share a little bit about the journey of setting up of your private mediation practice at CAMP, which is the Center for Advanced Mediation Practice in Bangalore. If you can help us understand what that was like, because, back in the day, I'm sure it was not particularly easy, especially working with government bodies, working, with litigators who had a very sort of strong sense of how disputes should be resolved. You just go to court. There can't be any other way to do this, right? And of course, with the burden that our judicial system currently sort of, has to deal with, this is definitely going to be a very, very effective tool. So if you can help us understand what that journey of just setting up the center was like.
Okay, you wanted me to go first?
Please.
So as I told you, here I was most excited about mediation. I just felt like a little girl with a magic wand, because I could resolve so many disputes. It was very exciting. And that's when, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to take it out into the community, make it a way of life. But I also knew that this is a change of mindset. It is a cultural change, path breaking. And it was around this time that I also had a personal tragedy. So I wasn't confident. Will I be able to do this myself? Um, and and then I wanted somebody who was young, who was passionate, who had commitment, who had familiarity with the law. And I realized I didn't have to look far. She was there. Yes, that was Tara. There was no, I needed a partner, and I thought she would be really wonderful, but I did have my concerns because she's my daughter. The relationship is most important. It's not easy to work with a parent nor a daughter. So, how do we do this? And our skills at mediation, we both had the confidence that we had the techniques, the skills. I mean, in theory, it was all there. Practice, sometimes it doesn't really happen, but most often it works. And then we came together, some other wonderful people like Rukmani Menon and Shanta Chalapa, they also joined. So now we have a good team. Of course, I cannot forget to mention my husband, who has been such a great supporter, who encouraged me to get into this new space and follow my dreams, follow my passions. And I'm sure Tara will say the same about her husband, but I leave that to her. So that's what encouraged me to take that step. And regarding the government and all those, I think Tara is more familiar dealing with that.
Yeah, the process of setting up camp was quite interesting. Clearly, people didn't know what mediation was. So when we first set up our office, the phones would ring. We'd have visitors, but not for mediation. we once had this young man walking in with a yoga mat under his arm, trying to figure out where were the meditation classes. So people had no clue what we were doing. What are these two women talking about something that begins with an M and has a TION to it? Must be me in meditation. With the government too, no clue about mediation. When we first started was the time that Justice Thakur, who was the Chief Justice of our Supreme Court at that point of time, had a meltdown before the government saying, our justice system is falling apart and we need more support. So we had just written a piece at that point of time on how mediation and the ADR system could support the court system in resolving cases more effectively, and a call out to the systems to think about these processes more effectively. So we shared this article to the Prime Minister's office, and we got a response right away, but the response was not what we expected. The response was, thank you for your interest in our alternative medicine. At this point of time, the focus is on Ayurveda and yoga. We do not have a focus on meditation. So, across the board, there wasn't an idea of what is this process, and there was a lot of confusion going around. But I think and anyone we spoke to, it was about this process makes sense. We need to do this. You just got to stay the course, stay with it, because there will be that shift. And that's exactly what we're beginning to see right now. That shift is beginning to happen. We're talking about a law for mediation that is slowly coming about. CAMP was instrumental in being part of those early draftings. Laila was part of the Supreme Court committee to draft that law. The Supreme Court is referring cases out to mediation. We're seeing mediation clauses in contracts. It's no longer that young man with a yoga mat under his arm coming into our office. We have real clients coming in. There's a long way to go. But the fact is that journey has been extremely empowering, has been extremely satisfying, because we've seen the trajectory, we've seen the slow steps that people, our system, our lawyers, our court is making to recognize that there are multiple ways to be able to find solutions. And this is a real way. So there's a long way to go, but I have no doubt that we are on the right path and we are steaming forward in the right direction.
That is very encouraging to hear. If we were to ask you offhand, just ballpark numbers over the last few years, what kind of what how many mediations would you say have panned out successfully on the commercial side? I'm just curious. So we are asking.
So across the I mean, if you're just talking about us, we're a small drop in the ocean. We've done several hundred cases between the cases in courts, the cases at our center. We've done several hundred mediations. Are we in a place where we should be doing more mediations? Absolutely. I want several more zeros attached to the numbers that we have. But we are early on in our game, and in the short span of 5 years, we set up a camp in 2015. To think that when we started, we had no clue. The community was really not aware of this process to where we are today. We've made such a long step forward, and I have no doubt that within a short period of time, this will become part of our system.
Thank you. That's
Tara and Laila, can I ask what keeps you going? Because I remember when camp was formed back in 2015, and Laila was very much part of some of the conferences when it was launching, and has done many things with us. And I've spoken to Tara obviously a lot about that journey, and it's not easy to, whether you're setting up a mediation center or any business. And it's interesting you mentioned that it's a short journey and it's already 5 years, right? So obviously you've got a long-term view on this, but most people would have given up by now. And I know mediation, was not taken seriously back then. It wasn't even on the radar 5 years ago. Even 10 years ago, there was a lot around ADR, but mediation was never part of that. And I think you would have had a lot of fight back from the law firm fraternity, trying to not take it too seriously, not get it become institutionalized. So what's kept you going? Because it's not an easy thing, especially when it's not commercially viable in the short term as well.
Mm-hmm. Mom, you want to take that, and I'll follow up.
Go ahead, Abdi.
Because and our system is in need of something more. The parties in dispute are in tough situations. They are cornered. A lot of them find the relief that they need in court. A lot of them don't. Our lawyers who get into the law with the ideals and dreams of being able to find solutions for their clients are very often not able to find those solutions for their clients. And that's because the only option that our system offers at this point of time is litigation, and to a lesser extent, much lesser extent, arbitration. There is a real need for another way to do it. Very often, what the parties need is a table, is essentially a place to convene and have an opportunity to be able to have that honest conversation. And that system isn't there, and there is a real need for that system. Every time a case is resolved and we are able to see that this relationship that was stuck for so many years, that brought so much pain and frustration to these people, we were able, through a transformative, efficient, effective process, bring these people back together to be able to move forward. That is so empowering, and to be able to do it in a quick period of time. Families whose relationships were broken for 10 years, who were fighting each other in court, who were throwing each other in jail, to be able at the end of this process, which perhaps is 40 hours long, are able to toast again at a family reunion. Unbelievable. And honestly, we're not the most skilled, exceptional mediators. It is the opportunity that this process provides under the guidance of professionals who know what the process is, to be able to guide them into finding their own solutions. Parties know their own solutions. It's just that they are muddled in the pains and confusions and the shackles of conflict. Their ability to be able to find their own resolution and move on is such an empowering place to be in. So I think it fundamentally resonates with us as human beings to engage in this practice where conflict, which is an inevitable aspect of human relationships, which can destroy relationships, can also be transformative and heal and empower people. So to be in that space where something that is so natural to us as human beings could be nuclear, could be destructive, but could also be transformative and empowering, and us being able to play a role in it being empowering and healing, and advantageous and beneficial and productive, is what keeps us going, is what keeps me going, and I know is the same thing that keeps all of us at camp going.
Yeah, that's a really amazing description to talk about resolving conflicts and disputes from a transformative healing point of view, because you're right, most of us, it can create so much negative energy, animosity, and we come at litigation and conflict as a negative thing. But you're kind of, the kind of amazing work you're doing, bringing it to India is you can really resolve something. Conflict's natural, but there is another way of kind of solving it so that both parties, can come up with a much better outcome. And and it's whether it's corporate or whether it's personal, it can be you can bring healing to disputes, which is an incredible way of looking at it. Because otherwise, what we see in Bollywood and how we perceive conflict and in court, is the other spectrum, and there's a lot of negative energy and hate that comes out of it.
Exactly.
I think we're really lucky that you do keep going, for the Indian system. So I think we're fortunate to have you two doing that. In today's era, then, right? Because we're in lockdown, courts are open, centers are opening up, etc. How have you been kind of managing this transition of keeping mediation going when we're kind of in this virtual world now?
We've gone online. We're doing exactly what we're doing right now, having conversations, connecting, having fun online. And we've taken our practice online. And, in today's world where people meet their spouses online, why is it that they cannot, they make the biggest decisions of their lives online, right? Why not resolve their disputes online? So it's been hugely empowering for us, again, to be able to move with the times in multiple ways. What started off as a practice where we would provide cozy environments for our parties at our office, where we were able to tend on them, create comfortable environments for them to be able to think about their dispute differently. We've been able to take that online, and Laila can share with you a little bit more on the kinds of cases that we're able to do online. The fact that we're able to bring in people who otherwise would not have been able to participate in their dispute because they would have had to travel to Delhi. They're 85 years old, in bed or bedridden, and therefore cannot travel and hand it over to a lawyer. But through a process like this, because it's online, are able to engage in their own dispute and resolution process. So unbelievable! It's been a challenging time, but it's also been such an opportune time for us to be able to take our work out to people who otherwise would not have been able to access mediation or any dispute resolution process, for that matter. So yeah, it's been an exciting time for us.
So Tara, I'm curious to ask here, speaking of the pandemic, what's obviously happened is that courts have been compelled to go online, as has your practice, right? So clearly there's a pattern. When we have no choice, right, we will take and adopt a new method. Yeah. Clearly, you think, I'm curious to therefore ask that if if Indian courts said that there's no option but to mediate first, right? And then we'll kind of see where this goes. Do you feel like that'll help other, whether it's mediation or any other forms of dispute resolution, which are probably not, your first option is not to go to court, but to resolve through other ways? Do you think that it'll perhaps popularize if, we just give them no choice, if we give parties no choice but to go to mediation, for example?
Absolutely. And in fact, as part of our efforts on policy, one of the things that we are trying to work on is this whole aspect of mandatory mediation. Now, mediation is fundamentally a voluntary process. So it is a little antithetical to say mandatory mediation. But what we are trying to do is to work on a concept, or work on a model which has been effectively implemented in other countries, such as Italy, where we've seen huge success, where the law requires parties to try one session of mediation. And then you have the choice to either opt in or opt out. And in those models, what we have seen is that in a majority of cases, parties actually choose to try mediation. When the status quo is going to court, it is extremely hard to break the status quo or change the status quo. But when there is a push through a policy like mandatory mediation, then and that changing the status quo can only happen through a strong push like legislation, or the judges saying you have to go to mediation. But you're still retaining the right, and you're retaining the fundamental tenet of the process to be voluntary, where you can easily step out. That's when the behavioral change starts setting in. Laila has a great anecdote, or shares the research on how, and you should be sharing that, Mom, on how this breaking of the status quo through legislation or through policy changed organ donation. So, share that. And that's the learning that the Italians had on why a mandatory model made sense for Italy.
You want me to share that?
Yeah, I think it would be interesting for everyone to hear.
Because
we have about 5 minutes. Yes, please do.
Okay, that is the the mandatory mediation model. It helped Italy, where they made mediation mandatory, and this concept was evolved from a concept in human behavior, which is people tend to not change the status quo. They continue in the status quo. So there was a research by a professor of the Columbia Law School and the Columbia Business School and London Business School on the organ donation scheme. And they found that in countries where organ donation was opt-in, that is, those who want can donate, only 15% of the people donated, when organ donation is so crucial to save lives. But in countries where they made an easy opt-out mandatory organ donation, that is, the status quo is everybody donates, but it is easily, you can opt out of it. If you just send a letter, or any of the family members indicate that they don't want this person to donate organs, then they opt out. So it's called the easy opt-out organ donation scheme. 90% of the people donated. 90%. And why? Because they prefer to remain in the status quo. When the status quo was organ donation, they donated. 90% didn't opt out. And this is what we are trying to advocate even in India. If you make an easy opt-out model of mediation is a change in mindset. It is a cultural change. If you make mediation mandatory but easily opt out, then many people will opt for mediation. A critical mass is formed. Of course, it's important. It should be a critical mass of satisfied users. And now that's my concern. We have to set in place systems where parties have satisfactory experience of mediation. And clearly now we see judges are referring cases for mediation more and more. The recent Rajiv Luthra case was referred for mediation. Recently, Supreme Court sent a case for mediation. And I believe the judges refer cases for mediation for an important reason. Very often, judges, when they are passing judgments, they're confused. They know that a judgment will greatly prejudice one side. Either side, the loser will be greatly prejudiced. They might have to use their inherent powers under Article 142 of the Constitution. And they don't want to do that. But when a mediation has been done, like recently, 2 weeks back, a case was sent. The judges, 3 judges of the Supreme Court, at least 3 to 4 times, they tried to help the parties resolve. They sat 3-4 times in the Supreme Court to help parties resolve that. But the parties were very adamant, and the judges knew that now they'll have to pass a decision under Article 142, and it would be gravely impacting one side. So they sent it for mediation. We had a 27-hour mediation, and what does the mediator do? Explore all possibilities of settlement. The mediator brings all possibilities of settlement to the table. That's the mediator's job. Finally, the decision is taken by the parties. If the parties settle, well and good. If the parties don't settle, it's an informed decision. When parties are in an adversarial state of mind, they cannot take informed decision. A neutral third party with the skills can bring all possibilities for resolution. And still, if they say no, like what happened to the last case, it was not settled. It went back. But the judges could then take a decision emboldened by the knowledge that all possible efforts have been taken. Now we can administer justice in a strong, brave, confident way. I mean, this is what an exposure to mediation does.
I think you should expose Arnab Goswami to mediation on a personal note. That could help the case.
Absolutely. Transformative mediation, possibly.
Yeah.
Thank you both for sharing what you did about your respective journeys and setting up of camp, and of course the future of mediation. It's actually been very insightful. We're now ready to move on to our next segment, which is a very fun segment. We are going to give you a list of 5 to 7 words each. I believe they've already been sent to you over WhatsApp. Please check your phones. For the audience, we will be putting it out in the chat window. Laila ma'am and Tara, we request you not to look at the words in the chat window. They're just for the benefit of the audience, not the both of you.
So I should close the chat window, right?
Yes, please. And so your words have come to you, I hope. And once you confirm that they have, we will be ready to play our next segment, which is called Word Sneak.
Wow, you're going to make monkeys out of us?
Yeah.
So in this segment, the words that you both have received, 5 to 7 words each, in the same order, you have to use these words conversationally. It has to look like a very organic, free-flowing conversation between the both of you, and you have to finish your respective lists of words and sneak the words into conversation, right? That's the aim.
So these are the seven words?
Yes, you both have 7 words each. That's correct.
Ooh. Let's see where we go with this.
So are you both ready? Ma'am, have you received your words?
Yes.
Okay. Tara, you've received yours, right?
Yes.
Right. So I guess we are... Neha, you want to put down the words for the audience in the chat? You can. Laila ma'am and Tara can be trusted and they will not look at the chat window. Our audience knows what the words are. It's just more fun when all of us have the words and we're watching the both of you struggle. That's what makes it fun. All right.
Okay. One minute. Let me just get it. Okay. Yeah, got it.
Super.
Okay. So last night was Halloween. I'll start. Last night was Halloween, wasn't it? And what a big show it was. But guess what? I decided to change it up a little bit. You know how much I love brinjals? So we had brinjals all over the house. What a negotiation that was with the kids who were expecting pumpkins. But instead, we had brinjals. We had carved brinjals all over the house.
Tara, what have you done to my grandchildren? You give them brinjal instead of pumpkin? I'm going to go through the Panama Canal and come to you and save my grandchildren from their monster mother.
But to center myself, Mom, all those years of yoga, I think, and of course, to get to do that yoga with you as a 12-year-old, the only way I could do it was to imagine that I was in the beaches of Hawaii playing the piano. That's the only way that I was able to get through yoga. But yesterday, all that yoga came to good use because I was able to get what I wanted, which is to have brinjals for Halloween.
Oh my God. What a war, Tara. If only we knew mediation in your younger days, we would have had less wars.
Yeah. And instead, you would take me all to the temples as well. So the temples all over the country, just so that I could learn my pranayama, that I could learn my asanas. So, and you know what, Mom? At the end of it all, with my brinjals and my yoga techniques, I got a call yesterday from Britney Spears to tell me that I rock as a mom with all my brinjals for Halloween.
Well, that's the mother dancing. That's the mother dancing. And isn't that a beautiful dance?
You bet. You bet.
Yeah. Keep dancing, Tara. That's what I did for many years with you.
And now I continue the dance. So thank you.
We continue? You remember the apple pie I made you when you were a little child?
Yeah.
Imagine if I put brinjal in it.
Yeah. I love it. You know me and brinjal. I think I got that from you. I'm done with my 7 words. Are you done with your words?
No. If we have the American president, who I'm not in favor of, then I'm going to make him a brinjal pie. Put it in my haversack and bring it all the way to the US.
Yeah, and we'll introduce him to yoga with Britney Spears and negotiate a way where we change the elections next week into something that the rest of the world is looking for.
And we'll drink to that on the beach side.
Sounds like a plan. I'm there with you.
Well done, both of you. Tara, you went at supersonic speed there, huh? Everything super.
You put in 3-4 words into one, is it?
I think so.
Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you. You played that round very well. And we're now ready to move on to the next segment where you both can legitimately point a finger at each other and there will be no conversation around who is nastier, because you're allowed. This game allows you to point fingers, all right? So let's move on to the next segment where you basically have to essentially close your eyes with one hand. You will be asked a question, and if you think the answer is you, you point inward. If you think it's your mom or daughter, you point to the camera. The entire time, we request you to keep your eyes closed with one hand, so that there is no bias kicking in. Right?
Okay.
All right. So we are ready for our next segment, which is called Point a Finger. Give us a moment. We're just going to play the AV. All right. Are we ready to point a finger?
Yeah.
So eyes closed and point a finger, either she or me?
Yes, please. And please ensure that your hand is somewhere near your camera. Otherwise, we won't be able to see what you're doing with it.
Okay.
Yeah, this
Let's go.
Position your hands in advance. All right. Are we ready? Laila ma'am, close your eyes, please.
Sure.
No cheating, huh?
No cheating. Who is the better lawyer?
How terrible you are.
I know.
All right. Who is more likely to be the treasurer of family secrets? Both of you have misplaced confidence there, ladies. We need to work. All right. The next question then. Who is more likely to borrow clothes from the other? Okay. Who is more likely to throw a wild party that Britney Spears may come to?
That's me.
Okay. Who is more likely to use profanities?
That's me.
Who is more likely to be a drama queen?
Okay, for sure.
Who is most likely to worry about little things?
That's me.
That's probably me.
Okay. Okay, no talking, okay? Just point. Who is most likely to laugh at a very inopportune moment? Okay, then. All right.
Are we done?
No, not yet. Who is likely to write a bestseller?
That I don't know.
No, don't know. Okay. Who is the better cook? Okay. Who is most likely to throw a fit during a game of Monopoly? Okay. Who is most likely to cry during a sad movie?
Me.
Who is most likely to forget birthdays? Okay. Who is a serial hugger? Oh. And who is the better dancer? Okay, we're done. You can open your eyes.
Tara, you had a Zoom bomber also doing
We
fingers.
do have a Zoom bomber. Just give me a second. Sorry.
One point, that's why I paused, because I saw Tara's hand was up here stationary, and then I could see one hand turning inward. I'm like, she has two right hands. This is very abnormal. Now it all makes sense.
Yeah. And this is how we do work. I have to be able to share a lovely story where the office, I have 3 little children, and so I constantly bring my children into work. And there was this one time where Laila said she had a very important meeting, and so she had her door shut. But I had to step into the office, into her meeting, because I had to ask her something rather important. And I opened the door, and guess what's going on? My 5-year-old is, she's sitting in her chair, which has wheels. My 5-year-old is there with her and pushing her up and down the office. That's the beauty of that's been the beauty of building mediation together with her. There have been the moments where we are working on legislation to change laws in India. There are also the aspects where my 5-year-old is pushing her up and down the office because he needed to be entertained, and there was no other choice that we had, as you just saw.
She shares secrets. Look at that.
Yeah.
we must
I
say
guess the answer on that one was right.
both were very confident that you all were respectively the family, treasurers of secrets. So we need to go back to the family and check which of these is true.
Right.
All right. Thank you for sharing that story, Tara. That's actually quite fun. And
Sorry, as we just got Zoom bombed.
okay, there are advantages sometimes to working from home. So this is one of those, I suppose. Okay, so we're ready for our next segment and the last one on the show. This one's called The Interrogation, where we will ask you questions and you have to answer really quickly and rapidly and not take too long to think, okay? So are we ready for this? Okay, The Interrogation then.
Let's go.
All right. Vikas, you want to take this from the top?
It's a quick fire, so you don't want to spend too much time thinking over it or answering it. Right? So the first one to Laila. If you could swap roles for a week, what two things would you do differently than the other does in her current role?
So between her and Tara,
Yeah.
I just spend time with the grandchildren, enjoy them. And I mean, that's what I do most. Not all the work that she does. I'm not going to do that.
Tara, same to you then. What would you do differently in your mom's role?
She does it pretty damn well. I'd be softer on my dad.
How terrible you are.
She spend more time with your kids and you'd be softer on the dad. Right. Looks like a mediation case coming up soon.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
Yeah. All right. Next question. For anyone looking to resolve conflicts in their personal or professional spaces, give us your top tip for moving towards a resolution. So Tara, you first this time.
Impossible to do, but or not impossible, very hard to do, but to listen, to try and understand the other side. Damn hard to do, but if you can do, goes a long way.
Laila?
I'll suggest a mediator. Go to a neutral third person who will help you resolve.
Okay.
One more thing, have a glass of wine. Always helps.
So if you had to mediate differences between two celebrities or lawyers, whom would you choose? So Laila, you first.
Celebrities.
And can you name?
Oh. I need to name the celebrities?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know too many celebrities.
No problem. No problem.
Right, Tara, who would you choose to mediate?
Who would I choose to mediate as celebrities?
It can't be Trump versus the US court system now.
I was just thinking that. Can you imagine the power of that? Can you imagine, especially having a mediator with one of the Trump-Biden debates would have actually shown the real power of mediation. That debate played out, and everybody saw what an adversarial system does. It does nothing. So yeah, let's try and mediate on a Trump-Biden down show that's gonna happen next week.
Right. What's the one really funny, odd thing that Laila did Laila's done as a parent that really embarrassed you? So Tara, that to you first. It's an embarrassing thing your mom's done to you.
Oh my God, I'm totally blanking over here. She's been, I was such a good girl. I really did not expect that much out of her. And she was something embarrassing. When did she embarrass me? I can't think of anything, Vikas. I'm either blanking or they say that they say that you put the terrible memory behind you.
All right. Well, hopefully Laila can remember any time that Tara's embarrassed you as a child.
She didn't embarrass me. I thought it was very cute. She was in the nursery and she was participating in a race. And there was the person who started the race and everybody standing attention, the children on a mark, get set. And I'm noticing that my child is really not getting set. And he says, go, the rest of the team goes, and Tara's still looking around. I thought it was so cute. She didn't take off.
She's
not competitive at all those days.
Well, she's taken off ever since. So she's been flying ever since. You know that.
Still trying to take off because. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So to Laila, say one thing to Tara that you've never said before.
Tara, spend money, enjoy yourself, party, do fun things.
Wow.
Really struggled to say the spend money. I could feel the struggle. Well done. Tara, how about
yeah.
What's that? What same thing to mom?
Yeah.
You said to her before.
Mom, you are a cool, fun woman. You know how to be fun, to be silly when you are when you have had that one extra glass of wine. You know exactly how to move your body, although it is not really well coordinated to the beat of the music. But you reach that stage where you really don't care. You are absolutely fabulous when you try and teach your 18-month-old and your 3-year-old how to do pranayama and breathing and yoga. So although there are parts of me that says, stay away, let me take care of it, it's absolutely fabulous. We love it.
Super.
Very cute.
And then, what's the most spontaneous thing you've ever done, Laila?
Most spontaneous thing? If you ask me adventurous, I could answer. Spontaneous, adventurous.
Sure, go for that.
I jumped off a plane. I did ski diving. I took a decision to do a 120-kilometer trek. I spontaneous. Yes, I can tell you spontaneous. I went ski canoeing without knowing how to swim. Does that fit the bill?
Oh my God. All right, that is cool, Mama Ward. Tara, completely correct. That's cool. Freaked me out, but cool, Mama Ward.
Yeah.
Without knowing how to swim, sea canoeing.
Oh my God.
Nice.
Tara, you're going to have to match that at least.
No, the most spontaneous thing that I did was once when we were out on a hike. Now, I'm not, it has to do with adventure as well. We were out on a hike. There was this absolutely amazing cliff. And I've always wanted to jump off the cliff into the river. But again, there was a river right there. I'm of course scared, but Paul, my husband, is one of those who knows how to push. And of course I pushed back. But this time around, when he said, come on, do it. You're on top of the cliff, just jump into the water. I managed to do it. And that was so fabulous. I just ran and boom into the water. That was lovely.
Mm. But you did know how to swim, right?
I had my life jacket on, so I could do it.
That is quite a story. All right. So, Tara, you enjoy music, we know. So, tell us a song that will get you and your mom on the floor immediately. We won't play it and we won't insist that you dance right now. So, don't worry. But tell us one such song.
So my mom is one of those who's taking to music now that she's 65. She actually has a great love for music, but something about her deep inside seemed some noise, some voice in her head said that she wasn't big into music. But she's a good play on. So if I get up and move, she'll find her way to get on. Now, one song that will get me on the floor is, I don't know if you guys have heard this. It's an old silly song by Shaking Stevens called, oh shucks, the name is You Drive Me Crazy. So anytime you play that song, and I told my husband this when we first met, when I'm feeling down, just play that song and I will be up and moving. And sure enough, even today, my friends know you play that song. It's a silly song, but it has such a fun beat. I start moving, and she'll come and she'll also move with me.
That's very endearing to hear. I wish we could have, because we should have introduced the demonstration piece for this question. Okay, but that's lovely. And ma'am, we know that you really enjoy local cuisine when you travel. So tell us one such dish that you've learned over your many travels that Tara really enjoys or relishes.
Well, I when I travel, I learn little. I think it was in Thailand that I learned a special kind of a fruit salad, and I came back home and made it. And Tara, do you remember I made that? Or maybe you've forgotten. It was not so nice. A fruit salad with all kinds of flavors in it, and yeah.
No, but to add to that, Laila's no longer the cooking mama, but what she does is wherever she goes, she brings a little bit of something yummy. So whether it's caviar or whether it's cheese or whether it's some nice wine or balsamic vinegar, wherever she goes, she'll come back with something sweet for me. So through her escapades, we've been introduced to finer foods.
Oh, nice. Okay, super. Your next question, one thing, and you have to try and answer in one word, okay? One thing that mediation has that other forms of dispute resolution don't.
Compassion.
Okay, Tara, you?
Empathic listening.
Wow, okay, super. The next question, how about suggesting 2 books or documentary recommendations for conflict resolution? It could be personal or professional conflict, but anyone who's just trying to get better with conflict resolution, what's a good starting point literature-wise? Whether it's a book, it's a documentary, what would you recommend? Laila, you first, maybe?
I think, mediation is all about negotiation. So Getting to Yes by Roger Fisher and William Urey. How do you negotiate? Yeah, maybe that's... or Stark on, I think the name of the book is Principles of Mediation by Stark, which is also, I thought, very good.
Okay, thank you. And Tara, how about you? Any recommendation?
I haven't read this book as yet, but it is something that I really want to get to, because it was one of those moments when as Laila said, we as a family faced a tragedy 10 years ago, and the thing that kept her going was nonviolent communication. Who's the author?
Marshall Rosenberg.
By Rosenberg, exactly. And that's definitely, clearly that was something, just the power of that book to be able to get Laila back on her feet was obviously a very, very strong book. It is something that she engaged with deeply. I have been meaning to do it for many years, but I haven't. But that's something that's on my list that that I would like to get to sooner rather than later.
Okay, super. Tell us, what have you really missed through 2020? Because there's been a lot that we've all missed in parts. Is there something particularly that stands out for you, Laila ma'am?
For me, it's to be able to hug people, to touch, just to go close. That's what I miss.
Therefore Tara said, I think that you're the serial hugger, and you also agreed. That was one question where there was no doubt that you were the winner there. So I completely hear you, because I miss hugging immensely as well. So yeah. It doesn't feel safe anymore, right?
Yeah.
Tara, how about you?
I miss the ability to just sneeze without feeling uncomfortable. I hate the fact that every time I cough or I sneeze,
there's judgment.
Oh God, I've done something terrible.
It's so much judgment, right? When you cough or sneeze.
Yeah.
It's a simple sneeze. That's all I did. There was something tickling my nose. That's why I sneezed.
Okay. So Laila ma'am, we've reached the last question of the interrogation. Tell us one time that you really felt very proud of Tara.
I really felt proud of her when she was able to stand up strong when we went through a crisis in our life. She was a support, comfort, and took amazing decisions at that time. And that's when I was so proud of her. Yeah.
Wonderful. Tara, how about you? Tell us one time that you've really been proud of your mom.
Similarly, Lala went through a very tough patch. We lost our brother, and that's probably the hardest burden or heaviest cross that anyone can carry, to lose a child, and to be able to see how she was able to engage with life openly, fully, open out her personal lives to friends and family, and adopt a large family. She was able to engage with work. She was able to channelize all that energy into doing this amazing work that drives her every day. To still be a mom. I mean, she lost, but she was able to be a fabulous mom to me, an amazing grandmom to our children. So she's a rock star, and I'm proud of how she's been able to show us that life is tough and there are crosses that come your way, but it's about picking it up and moving, crying when you have to cry, but find the strength to move forward, and she's shown us that.
That is wonderful, and we're very sorry for the tragedy that you speak of. Definitely sounds like a very, very painful time, and it is truly wonderful that you both and the family found the courage to sail through the way you did and continue to do the good work that you do. So thank you for that.
Thank you. We might not say such nice things all the time, okay?
Yeah, not at all. Today's one of those days where we're being kind to each other.
We are glad you're keeping it kind on the show. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, you should ask my dad more about the times when we decide to spar.
We'll have another show with another episode where we will invite the both of you with your family and do some deep digging into those questions that you both have some misunderstandings around as well.
Yeah, and you'll see us going at each other.
Absolutely.
Super. This has been so much fun. Do we have any questions that we want to take? Do the both of you have time for that?
No questions, but just loads of really nice comments about people enjoying the program, the mother-daughter lovely relationship, the work you're doing at camp. So a lot of positive feedback about the work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Everybody, we enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun for us. I hope it's been fun for you as well. Thank you.
Thank you both for doing this. and just being so much fun and sharing so openly and honestly. It's really been fun having the both of you, and have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Bye-bye.